After 5 years in a loveless marriage, the woman came home to find her always absent husband drinking there. He coldly asked why she was back, treating her like a stranger in her own house. That was when she realized that even after being reborn, nothing was different. In her past life, this man's cruelty had pushed her to her limit. On that terrible day, her husband's mother publicly blamed her for ruining the family over a mistress while reporters surrounded her, shouting questions. Her husband's only demand was for her to sign the divorce papers. He said his new love was innocent and pure, unlike their marriage, which was only about business, and had no real feeling. After 10 years of giving everything, his words broke her heart. She asked for the other woman's name. He answered, Wei Lan, without any guilt. The next second, she threw the papers into the air and let herself fall from the hospital roof, ending her painful life. But then she opened her eyes. She was alive, reborn 5 years earlier, on her 5th wedding anniversary. This time she swore she wouldn't be a fool anymore. The first thing she did was find the woman who ruined her life, a coffee shop worker named Wei Lan. That night, instead of waiting for a husband who would never celebrate with her, she put on a stunning black dress and went clubbing with friends. She announced she was finally getting a divorce to end her stupid obsession and start fresh. As her friends cheered, she decided to find a new man right there. She walked up to a handsome waiter, but he already had a girlfriend. Just as she turned away, she tripped and fell backward. But a man caught her who looked exactly like her husband. She was shocked, thinking she was drunk, but then she noticed his uniform. The next morning, the woman woke up alone in her luxury bed, the club night still fuzzy. She saw her hand was bandaged and figured the waiter who looked like her husband must have brought her home. Right then, her actual husband walked in, furious. He laughed at her question about where she hid the student, sneering that he hadn't been gone long enough for her to find another man. He pinned her against the wall, calling her desperate and saying her only worth was as his wife. She fired back that if he couldn't take it, they should divorce, but he refused, saying their marriage wasn't that simple. In the bathroom, she saw a news report about her husband dating a young actress. She now understood that without his mistress, her husband would never let her go, because their marriage was a business deal. Since he wouldn't agree to a divorce, she decided to play his game. To test how pure his mistress's love was, the woman purposely crashed her car into the mistress's boyfriend, a college student, breaking his leg and sending him to the hospital. She visited him, offering to pay all his medical bills and get him a better job after he recovered. The student said he and his girlfriend were working part-time to save for their wedding, but their families were poor, and his girlfriend's mom was just a cook. Hearing this, the woman felt guilty but knew this was the only way to reveal the truth. She wrote her number on his cast and told him to call if he needed anything, starting her plan in motion. That night, her husband demanded she go to a cocktail party with him. She said no, but he reminded her that without her parents' help, she'd be nothing. She remembered her past life, how she went against her parents to marry this man, only for him to bankrupt her family. The memory made her even more determined. At the party, she ran into her parents, who were thrilled to see her. She told them she didn't love her husband anymore and wanted a divorce, a decision they fully supported. As she texted the injured student to see how he was, her husband got suspicious. Just then, a young actress, the same one from the news, walked up to him. The woman saw her chance. She introduced the actress as her husband's rumored mistress and told her to go for it, since their own marriage was already over. The woman then said goodbye and left, ignoring her husband's angry shouts to come back. As she drove off, he caught up to her, mad that she was showing off her thing with the student. She calmly replied that since he wouldn't divorce her, she'd just play his game. She then got a call from her friends and told them she was on her way to a party with lots of handsome guys, leaving her husband speechless on the roadside. After a nasty fight, the woman bit her husband's hand, but he dragged her away and locked her in a room. This all happened because his best friend, a doctor, had just confronted her. The doctor warned her that her husband was Pei Heng, and she better not cheat on him. But she just laughed. Instead of listening to him, she told him to go convince his good friend to finally give her a divorce. What the doctor didn't know was this all started when she accidentally hit a young student with her car. She went to the hospital to see him, insisting she had to take responsibility for his injuries. But the next second, the student's girlfriend walked in, calling his name. That was when the woman saw the trap. The girlfriend, a barista from a local coffee shop, recognized the rich woman as a regular customer. She put on an act, telling her boyfriend this woman was nice and the accident must have been an accident. She even tried to give back the generous money the woman had paid, but the woman refused, saying the student deserved it for his injuries, and quickly left. She now understood everything. This girl's humble act and her act of not caring about money were the perfect way to attract her husband. That's why he had been so angry, accusing his wife of being too obvious. She reminded him they had a deal to play their own games, but he wouldn't listen. She was clear-headed and could list every one of his scandals over the years, so she couldn't understand. Anyone in the world could question her, but he had no right. Her friend called in a panic, yelling that her husband just got beaten up at a bar. When she got there, her friend was furious, saying another woman's chest was practically in his face. But the wife was strangely calm. She calmly told her friend it was all a misunderstanding and that his friends had just brought some girls along. Her husband tried to go along with it, but she cut him off, saying his taste was bad before grabbing her friend and walking out, leaving him totally humiliated. But this calmness was all part of a bigger plan. It turned out that very morning she had interviewed a new nanny. Looking at the resume, her eyes froze on the family section. The nanny's daughter was Wei Lan, the exact woman her husband fell for in her past life. She had found her enemy's mother. She hired her immediately. The woman explained she could live in the house long-term, and the nanny gratefully accepted. Later that night, after getting back from the bar, she collapsed on the sofa. The new nanny rushed to make her some tea, but her husband stormed in right behind her. He immediately criticized the nanny, calling her ugly, old, and a bad cook. The wife coldly defended her, but he refused to drink the tea she made. He had no idea he was insulting his future mother-in-law. But the next second, his parents suddenly arrived. They were in town for a business forum, forcing the couple to pretend and share a room to keep up appearances. Lying in her bed, he complained she was playing hard to get. That's when she pulled out a document. It was a divorce agreement already signed. She told him she didn't want any of his money. All she wanted was a divorce. Just as she handed him the signed divorce papers, his mother walked in. To cover her, she jumped into his arms, pretending they were about to rest. Once his mother left, he pushed her off, furious. They argued, and he insisted they share the bed for appearances. But in the middle of the night, he woke up to find her trying to choke him. She wasn't just faking it, she seemed possessed. The next morning at breakfast, his mother served her a special fertility porridge, telling them to have a child. His father lectured him about his constant scandals, warning that a man who loses his family loses everything. She defended him, saying it was all for show, but then he got a text message that changed everything. At the hospital, she confronted the doctor again, but he wouldn't budge. He coldly told her his patients needed him and walked away. The woman, boiling with anger, pulled out a recording pen disguised as lipstick and dropped it into a glass of water, destroying it. Then she went back to her husband's family, catching him on the phone. She had overheard him and showed him a video on her phone proof she had put the bug in the doctor's office. He was shocked, but she just smirked. Her plan was working perfectly. The man shamelessly put his jacket over the young greeter's shoulders right in front of his wife. The woman stood frozen, her heart turning to ice. She knew this moment would come. This was the meeting she had tried so hard to stop. It turned out just the day before. She found the girl working in a coffee shop. She offered her any new job to stop her from being a greeter at the summit, but the girl politely said no, explaining it was her last shift before school started. The woman's plan to change destiny had failed. That night, she lay in bed beside her husband. A huge, cold space between them. She demanded he take her to the summit. He laughed, but she threatened to ask his father to take her instead, which would force him to show their marriage was falling apart. With no choice, he agreed, warning her not to be late. As they arrived, her husband's eyes immediately locked onto the young greeter at the entrance. The spark was instant and obvious. His wife saw it all. She knew what was happening because this wasn't the first time she had lived this day. Inside, the other greeters were already gossiping about the handsome CEO, a known player who, even with a wife, always chased actresses. They said only a girl as pretty as their friend could ever get his attention. The girl told them to stop, saying she was only there to earn money for a dinner with her boyfriend. The husband then made his move, returning a lost earpiece before putting his jacket on the girl, who tried to refuse. Just then, his wife appeared. The girl was shocked to see her. The wife looked at the jacket and smiled slightly, telling her she should thank the nice gentleman properly. What the girl didn't know was that this nice gentleman was already inside, telling his assistant to get her number, thinking since they were all there, he might as well help his wife see the end of their marriage. The husband was partying at a club, ignoring his wife's calls, until an angry call from his mother snapped him back to reality. He rushed home to face his parents' anger. It turned out his wife had gone to a barbecue restaurant with a young man and the girl from the summit. Seeing the boy taking care of the girl, the wife teased him, saying a man waiting for his love is the most handsome. But her words were really for herself. Just then, the girl got a text from the husband and the wife saw it all. The girl, flustered, said it was a spam message. Later that night, while her parents yelled at her husband for staying out late and disrespecting his wife, the woman just watched. The man sneezed, and she noticed he wasn't wearing the jacket he gave the girl earlier. She knew it was a limited edition piece, impossible for a regular supervisor to own, a fact she had subtly mentioned at dinner, watching the girl's face change as she realized the wife knew everything. After the fight, her husband stormed off to another room. The woman waited until he was asleep, then crept into his room, gently taking his hand to unlock his phone with his fingerprint. She had to see the truth for herself. But on the lock screen, she saw the girl's message. He saw a message from the girl, politely rejecting him. Furious, he asked her what this was about. But the woman calmly took out a divorce agreement. It turned out she knew he would be rejected because in her past life she watched this exact scene happen, a betrayal so painful it ended her life. This time, knowing his failure was coming, she gave him an ultimatum. Sign the papers, and she'd help him win the girl's heart. He laughed at the offer, tearing the papers and throwing them at her.